They say that the more things change, the more they stay the same. And that is very true in regard to the fight ongoing in Washington, D.C. over the speakership of the U.S. House of Representatives. It's day 2 of that struggle, and Kevin McCarthy is no closer now than he was before to becoming Speaker of the U.S. House. My name is Brian Trippett. I am your Front Porch Conservative. Step on up to the porch and let's talk. Today is Wednesday, January the 4th, and in a second round of voting, there is no Speaker of the House of Representatives. Kevin McCarthy, as I mentioned a moment ago, is no closer now than he was yesterday to become Speaker. There have been some slight changes, some slight wrinkles, new, that have happened since then. We'll go over some of them in just a moment. As it stands right now, 3 new votes were taken for the speakership, and after a total of 6 ballots over 2 days, Kevin McCarthy is still not the Speaker of the House of Representatives. Now, I mentioned that there were some new wrinkles. Yesterday, after the first ballot, the rebels in the House, Republican caucus, got behind one particular candidate. It was Jim Jordan, Republican of Ohio. Today, they coalesced behind Byron Donalds, Republican of Florida. And for 3 straight ballots, he had a solid 20 votes. On the last 2 ballots, something interesting happened. I mentioned yesterday that on ballot number 3 that they started to pick up an extra vote. Well, the same thing happened on ballots 5 and 6 today. A young lady from Indiana, Victoria Sparks, voted present. Didn't vote for Donald, but didn't vote for McCarthy either. Hence is the problem. Now, the day's not over yet. As it stands right now of the recording of this video, which is about 7:30 Eastern, the U.S. House of Representatives is in adjournment until about 8 o'clock tonight. There are discussions ongoing between Kevin McCarthy's folks and the anti-McCarthy folks. They're meeting, in private. Will we go back and have a vote tonight? No idea. But there are discussions ongoing because the Republicans realize they have to break this deadlock. How it's going to turn out? No idea. But in a second, we'll take a look at the internal politics that go along with this. So where does the internal politics of this whole thing stand right now? Well, that sort of depends on how you look at it. Or maybe it's better to say whose side you're looking at it from. Now, I mentioned yesterday that there are 3 possibilities for how Kevin McCarthy could become Speaker, breaking the logjam doing so. One is he cuts a deal with the Democrats, straight up. I give you something for your votes. You give me the votes. I become Speaker. We all walk away from the table. Number 2, he cuts a deal with the GOP rebels in his own caucus right now. Or option 3, he just says there is no path going forward for me to become Speaker. I am withdrawing the nomination. There is, however, a slight variation to option 1 that I hadn't considered the other day, and given the fevered pitch that things are starting to reach on Capitol Hill, it's actually being floated. Take a look at this. This is a tweet, if I can get to it real fast. Hang on. Oh, come along now. Where are you? There you are. Okay. Don't like it that way. All right, I like it that way. Much better. This is from thehill.com's Twitter page. At about 1 o'clock this afternoon, they had put out a tweet saying they had reports that Kevin McCarthy had been in conversation with Democrats about a deal on a, quote, consensus candidate for Speaker, or getting them to hold out their votes to ensure that a lower threshold be met. I'll get to that in a second. Now, as you can see, apparently the Hill backtracked on this whole thing. Supposedly they got a hold of some bad information. A representative from Nebraska named Don Bacon had reported Republicans were in discussions with Democrats about this. This wasn't coming per se from McCarthy himself. Yeah, okay, whatever. But to go back to the idea of the low threshold, here's an article from Axios written by a lady named Erin Dougherty. She points out something that I had not considered, but it is possible. And I'll quote this directly. a speaker can win with fewer than the conventionally necessary 218 if not every member shows up or somebody votes present. Now, as it stands right now in today's voting, there were 433 members of the House. What this article from Axios is referring to is the possibility that, let's say, I don't know, X number of representatives don't show up. In other words, 50, 100, whatever. In other words, the amount of voting members is lowered. Well, hence the threshold to get to a majority is, at that point, it's not a matter of 433 and you get half of that, or over half of that, I should say. Yeah, so your voting threshold is, let's say, for the sake of argument, 350. And if you can get a majority of that, cool. In other words, Kevin McCarthy says to the Democrats, hey, why don't you guys take a walk for about 2 hours? Come back. We'll see what happens. And then lo and behold, Kevin McCarthy's 200 Republicans give him enough votes to become Speaker without necessarily having to have the full House of Representatives to do it. Now, do I think this could happen? Not really. McCarthy wants to win this vote on the back of Republicans alone. If he, again, as I said yesterday, if he does this deal with the Democrats, he's done. He'll not get anything seriously passed in the next 2 years that he might want to see implemented, if he even does. Who knows what his legislative agenda is. So, I point out this wrinkle just by way of being comprehensive. This was something that was pointed out that I did not quite realize. So, what are the other GOP representatives thinking? Well, not much. Ken Buck is a stalwart standard Republican from Colorado. He was supporting McCarthy, but he has said, look, I'll vote for him. But if there's obviously no path for him to get to 218 votes, it's time to start thinking about alternatives. As a matter of fact, it got so bad today, it was actually rumored that after ballot number 5, if McCarthy hadn't won the majority, his vote was up for grabs. Now, he didn't do it. He still voted for McCarthy on the 6th ballot. But this gives you an idea of how fluid this situation is starting to become, which, as I mentioned yesterday, is the strategy of the rebels. If they can hold this vote open and hold this thing out long enough to force McCarthy to the negotiating table, either for his unconditional surrender or some kind of surrender with conditions, then they've won the whole ball game. All it takes is a minimum of 5 Republicans. Keep in mind, the Republicans only have 222 seats in the House of Representatives. If any 5 of them hold together in any combination, then Kevin McCarthy will never see the speakership. And that is absolutely making him crazy. Where does it all start? Well, an article from NBCnews.com. Apparently, there's a group of pro-McCarthy folks, anti-McCarthy folks. They're meeting in the offices of Tom Emers, who's a Republican from Minnesota, who was in charge of the Congressional Campaign Committee in the previous election period. They're talking. And as I said, the House is supposed to reconvene at 8 o'clock tonight. Maybe they'll take another vote, maybe they won't. We'll see what happens. Now, there is one big question that we haven't really addressed in our previous discussions. What is Donald Trump's stand in all of this? Well, right now, all he's doing is about what he used to do. He's tweeting, or maybe it's better to say he's truth socialing. Yesterday evening, he gave rather a tepid response or endorsement of McCarthy's bid for speakership. This morning, he came out with a full-throated, we've got to get Kevin McCarthy in as speaker. You guys have got to come online, you rebels. Matt Gaetz' reaction? Sad. No, not that Gaetz' reaction was sad. That's what he called Donald Trump's reaction. Sad. And frankly, a lot of people are very disappointed that the president is backing McCarthy on this. So, in the end, where does all this go? We still don't have a speaker. The Republicans are still divided on this question, but they are talking to each other. We will keep you updated as time goes on with what happens here. But as it stands right now, at about 7:30 Eastern on Wednesday, January the 4th, there are negotiations going on. Where they lead from here, no idea. At any rate, I am your Front Porch Conservative, and we'll see you next time.